we've talked on this podcast about how there's been this shift in 8,000 meter skiing and how the surface has just been scratched. And you've been a part of that, scratching the surface. But man, is there so much to be done in terms of more descents without oxygen, more lines, new routes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I mean, we should even say broader than like just 8,000 meter skiing, but skiing in the Himalaya is just, the surface has barely been scratched. And I think it's just cool to see people pushing the limit and making it happen and getting after it in their own style.
Hello and welcome to the Duffel Shuffle. I'm Adrian Ballinger, and we're here to discuss the world of climbing and skiing in all its forms through the eyes of mountain guides.
And I'm Sam Kiekefer. In each episode, we'll unpack exhilarating stories, share invaluable insights, and get up close and personal with some of the most experienced and passionate guides and athletes in the industry.
Whether you're a seasoned alpinist or a weekend warrior, the Duffel Shuffle is your ticket to the thrilling world of climbing, skiing, and mountaineering. Join us.
Welcome back. This is episode 39 of the Duffel Shuffle Podcast. And Adrian, I can't tell if you sound tired or just terrible because you don't have your nice mic with you.
I am so non-pro. Probably a bit of both. I've moved to the, far away country of South Lake Tahoe. We always joke, if you live in North Lake and you live in South Lake, everyone not from here, I think they're the same place. And they're only an hour apart. And yet somehow they're just completely different. And I barely ever make it down here. I'm currently in the middle of spending a week down here. And it's so far away from home. I even forgot to pack my podcasting equipment.
It's funny, huh? Like South Lake Tahoe, North Lake Tahoe, they are both Lake Tahoe. I have friends that are like, hey, I'm going to be in Tahoe. Let's link up. And I'm like, great, where? Because
which one?
It could be, especially in the wintertime for me, it's like an hour and 45 minutes to go the open roadway around to South Lake.
Yep.
So yeah, that's a funny one. And so what are you doing in South Lake?
So I am down here for Black Diamond's Athlete Summit. So Black Diamond is obviously one of my main sponsors, a team I'm just incredibly proud to be a part of. It's always been kind of this aspirational brand and athlete team for me. And 3-ish years ago, I finally joined kind of what we call head to toe a global athlete. So it's clothing and apparel as well as all hard goods. So all of my climbing equipment, all of my high altitude equipment, all of my skis. The cool thing about Black Diamond for me, one of the cool things and why I say it's so aspirational is they literally like every product they make, I use. I love their running equipment. I love their skiing equipment. I love their climbing equipment. When they moved into apparel a decade ago, I knew like it wouldn't be shitty. And it took them a while to find their feet and kind of like their place. But their clothing now is just at the very top of like marketplace. And we're a small enough team that we get a lot of feedback as athletes. So this is one small piece of this. I think there's probably around 40 of us here. Between 2/3 of that is athletes, and then the other 1/3 is from the offices, designers and social media and marketing, and then people have been kind of rotating through to do presentations. And each day has kind of been a mix of a couple hours, 3 hours, 4 hours of presentations in the morning, and then going out doing some form of activity that Black Diamond athletes like to do in the afternoons. That's been bouldering, trail running, sport climbing. Yesterday, we're actually going to do a pro-am comp down in one of the athletes, Carlo Traversi, owns an amazing climbing gym in Sacramento called the Boulder Field. So we're going down to do a fun comp, indoor bouldering comp there, where athletes will be paired with general public and friendly competition to see how many points we can all get. But it's set up well where like no individual person on the team can climb any more than I think 5 of the problems. And there's like 40 problems in the gym with different points. So you got to be kind of strategic who's climbing what to kind of like get the highest team total. So that's really fun. But this is actually the first athlete summit since COVID for Black Diamond. And so the first since I've joined the team. and it's just wild. The Euros are here, all the like mountain guide paragliders who also ski, incredible exposed steep lines and climb 514. It's like, damn those Euros. We've got some of the top boulders in the world, Connor Herson, who we've had on the podcast, guides like Angela House. Just most of the high altitude crew actually isn't here since they're all currently working the autumn season in the Himalaya, except me because I have a kid. So I'm kind of repping for the high altitude crew. And yeah, we're having a great time. I think these things are so valuable for like insights to get pulled, but more than anything for like relationships to get built. We're cooking all our meals together, eating all our meals together. There's late nights in kind of the hot tub and foosball table and pool table, and then actual, going out and playing. So it's awesome. One of my favorite things of the year.
Well, this episode's going to be a little different, so I want to take a minute and dive into like 7 different things.
A little different than what I've been doing for the last week.
No, a little different than our normal episode. But I want to learn more about what an athlete summit is like. I think it's something that, being somewhat in the industry, I've heard about for many years. And I think a lot of people, don't totally know what an athlete summit is like and what the balance is like and who all is there. And, is this work? Is this play? Is this like a company holiday party? Or is this like a all company meeting because everyone works remote? So I got like loads of questions. You just talked for 4 minutes without giving me a second to cut you off. And I got to just like,
I like to do that.
Dissect this a little bit. So you started off and you said that these are Black Diamond athletes that are head to toe athletes. So you explained that means they are sponsored in every category. Someone like Alex Honnold is a Black Diamond athlete, but he's also a North Face athlete, a La Sportiva athlete. And so how does that work? And is someone like Alex there, or is this solely the head to toe athletes?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say the head to toe athletes is kind of mandatory that we're here, unless you're guiding an 8,000 meter peak like Topo and Kala are right now. The hard goods only sponsored athletes, which are some of the biggest names in the sport and have some, like Honnold has been with the brand for decades. They're absolutely all invited, but not all come. Alex isn't here, but like Sean Rabitou, one of the best boulders in the world, is North Face clothing, but Black Diamond hard goods. Jacopo Locher is here as a North Face clothing, but Black Diamond hard goods. So they're all invited. They don't all always come because it's a week long. It's a big time commitment and, far away for a lot of people to travel and things like that.
And so when Black Diamond hosts an athlete summit, obviously this is your first athlete summit with Black Diamond, but they've done this in the past. Is it always in South Lake Tahoe? Does it move around? Black Diamond is based in Salt Lake City. And so I would have imagined that they would have hosted you in Salt Lake City because they have a lot more resources there. So how does that all work?
I would say every other one for Black Diamond is in Salt Lake. So it can be more focused on offices and more of the office team can attend. And then the next one is in a location the Black Diamond athletes would like to be. Now, the Black Diamond team is probably 70% climber focused. That might be alpine, mountain, ice, rock, bouldering, but climber focused. And then there's the runners and the skiers. Maybe it's 60-40. But so it tends to be a climbing location and the skiers and runners just hang on for dear life. So, it's been in the Red River Gorge. It's been in southern Utah. It's been up in Lander, Wyoming. This one's in South Lake. And that's a little different model. I've obviously been to athlete summits for a lot of different brands, for La Sportiva, for shoes, I did a lot with Eddie Bauer back in the day, and Marmot before that. North Face is kind of famous for they throw their athlete summits where no one's very good at the activity. So they're often surfing focused. Obviously they have some good surfers on the team, but no one's pro. And that's a slightly different model. Like go out and go to a place where everyone, is just not doing their thing. I think the slightly different thing with BD, they know it's a lot of time for their athletes. And so they kind of ask people where you want to go. And a lot of the climbers, South Lake's had a lot of development recently. South Lake Tahoe in both bouldering and sport climbing is this, route that totally splashed called Empath. It was originally rated 515A here in Kirkwood. A lot of the pros wanted to go and try this route. I've been trying to find the excuse to come to Tahoe, and the exact same is true with the boulderers because it's so much development down here in the past few years. And so Black Diamond likes to lean into that. And so people are actually trying really hard and many are staying for longer. So they're kind of getting on the routes they really want to climb, checking things out. Black Diamond also shoots a lot of content while they're here. So it's a marketing content capture as well as design meetings and fun. So that works better for actually being in the pros kind of like sports arenas or whatever.
Yeah. So, talking about like kind of your day to day, and there's some fun. There's some people trying to get out here to do new routes. There's some marketing work. There's some business meetings. It's Thursday. We're recording on Thursday at noon. What has your week looked like so far? What's your split been from meetings? What meetings have you been in? I'm curious, kind of what that all looks like.
Yeah. Monday was just arrival, hangout, fun. I went for a short trail run, things like that. Nothing structured until dinner time. Dinner time was just a big blowout, few hours. There's a lot of meeting new people on the team. The team's like probably half people have been on for a decade or more, then 25% like me, a few years, but haven't had an athlete summit. And then 25% like, I was going to say the kids. They're not all kids, but like young, new, up and coming, maybe made a big splash recently, maybe just, people are seeing the talent, but not very known yet. And so there's a lot of just like meeting and hanging and that sort of thing. Tuesday was a full half day of meetings, and then playing well into the night. Like I don't think we had dinner until 9 p.m. or something, or had
lunch. And so what were those meetings, and what was that playtime?
Yeah, meetings were a lot of climb product design. So ropes, things that are far out, like 3 to 5 year out timeline working on products. I can't really talk about any of them, but like we probably saw 5 new things and 2 were like, holy shit, we're doing this kind of thing. But early prototypes and, some stuff not even you could use for the real sport yet kind of thing. So we did a big chunk of that. We did a big chunk about like kind of the athlete process of how feedback can most well be taken in by us and used to actually affect the product that's coming out. Everyone says their product is guide designed or athlete designed. The reality of actually doing that when the designers are so many years ahead, so many prototypes have massive liability around them and can't really be used for the sport. So, we had a big meeting about that. Then we did some apparel stuff. Then that afternoon we went out and we all went to a bouldering zone that one of our athletes, Carlo, has done a lot of development at. But there was good trail running in the area, good bouldering, and good hiking. So there was options for everyone. Next day, that was yesterday, I guess, was a full day of activity, no meetings. So early start, out all day. Most of us went to a sport climbing zone where Empath is, this route that a number of the really good climbers want to try, but there's a good selection of routes. And then the runners went to Desolation and did like a 20-mile loop in Desolation in full like alpine snowing weather, because the weather, as you know, is a little funky in Tahoe right now. It's like a rainy week all week. Like the one thing you could pretty much promise wouldn't happen in California, and that's why you should come to California for an athlete summit, happened this week, a full week of rain. But it's cool. People are making the best of it. It was very alpine at both the sport climbing crack and the running. So then there was like late dinner, hot tub, stuff like that. And then today was back to the half day meeting. And today was like marketing meetings, social media, best practices, new platforms, a lot of bitching about how much we hate social media, but like how we can best use it. Black Diamond is amazing. There's none of that. You must post this often. You must post about this jacket because it's our new tentpole piece. They are like, find your voice and do it. And everyone's got to everyone's got to try. But so there's a lot of talk about that. I really respect where they're at, like understanding the algorithm, but only playing to it to a level where everyone's on board. So yeah, all marketing meetings today about how we do those different things, how events work, expectations, kind of just hearing from that team that's working so hard to help us elevate our voices. And now we're taking a little break for activity so people can get out for a little run or whatever they want to do.
Or a podcast.
And then down to Sacramento. We'll be down there all night. And then tomorrow's one more day. Tomorrow we're actually going to do the Via Ferrata. So we were trying to find an activity where we could combine climbers and runners and everyone could like have fun truly one day, full team, like everyone doing the same thing, because mostly we've been splintering. And so everyone's going to go run or hike from town, no vehicle, via probably in full weather again, and then options for how long the loop is down. As you know, as short as 2 miles straight down to town, 5 or 10 after that.
Awesome.
Yeah, and then an evening wrap, probably a rah-rah meeting, but nothing too formal, and then one last dinner.
Right on. So I got two follow-up questions. One, these design meetings, I'm so curious, and obviously I'm not going to ask what new products are coming out until we're off recording, and then I'm definitely going to pin you down. But I'm curious, what that process looks like, and really like where I want to understand it more is like, how does the idea begin? Is it coming from athletes saying this is some challenge I'm having, or is it coming from designers who are like, hey, have you ever tried this? Are they pitching you ideas, or are you pitching them ideas and then fine tuning it with an engineer who actually knows what the fuck is going on?
Yeah. Black Diamond's really interesting because, as I think like their office team, like 30% of their office team, I would say, could be professional athletes in the field they're working in. Runners, climbers, skiers. It is so wild. And so many athletes at Black Diamond at the end of their athlete career have moved into full-time work at Black Diamond, which I also love. I'm sure that takes a lot of patience and training, kind of training the office into the athlete kind of thing. So a lot of ideas come out of the office. Actually, I'm not sure that's true with every brand, but a lot of ideas come from the office, and they'll have seen, a new fabric when they went to China and to the fabric factory, the textiles factory. So they'll have, obviously seen a product that's out there in the marketplace that someone else is making that maybe is interesting or a little bit different, or they're just like noodling. I get, once or twice a year, I get like a back of a napkin sketch, like with this, like a new rescue sled is a great recent example. It's not going to like break the internet to know that Black Diamond's thinking about that. And like, like back in the napkin sketch, like, would you be so psyched, or is this totally stupid? And it's like, how cool is that? So a lot of that comes from the office. But yeah, at the same time, it goes the other direction too. Usually I think amongst like frustrations from athletes, either something isn't working up to potential, or like there's, durability issues of something, a new product that, from a little company no one's ever heard of that's kind of cool. So it's a very open communication both ways. The only really formal part of it is once something's in testing to the point where it can actually be tested in the field, that process is, I remember 20 years ago as a field tester, it was just kind of like, random emails and, maybe someone was compiling stuff. Now it's like super regimented. Everything's tracked. Everything's documented. There's loads of safety kind of like triggers in place, because a lot of what Black Diamond is doing is testing stuff that has risk involved. And they custom built an app for all of their testing. And it's super legit, but it also shows me like they're really using this stuff. They would never have invested this much money into this very robust platform if they weren't really using it.
Oh, that's very cool to hear. Are there any products that you've been like asking for? Maybe they're not in the process yet, but something you're just like you've been dreaming up that you can talk about. Maybe there's just everything is in the works.
Yeah, I mean, no, it's easy because we've talked about it before. Like Black Diamond is going to be launching kind of a high altitude line with a 2-piece down suit as its like pinnacle piece. It's something I've just wanted for so long, a 2-piece that works like a 1-piece, especially. You just can't pretend. The mountains are getting warmer, and we're climbing the mountains, the really high mountains, in a more athletic way than when I started in this world 20 years ago. And the big Michelin Man 1-piece down suit, like we need to break that. So even though it's still currently what Alpenglow recommends, it is currently the standard. So we've been working on that piece for 2.5 years. It's about to come out this winter. So we'll be out there for the spring season. And then below it, they took a lot of the technology and things we were working on and built it into a 6,000 meter jacket and a 4,000 meter jacket. It's all called the Mission line, unless the name's changed. And it's just been like the dream process, how deep we were able to go, how open the team was to the fact that everyone knows they're not going to move the needle for their shareholders in a direct way on sales of a down suit, but this piece is so important, and it's a place where they can blow out the technology and the cost and all of it. It's been rad.
It's an interesting dynamic between like an item that is going to just like take over the marketplace in a large marketplace, maybe not the 8,000 meter down suit marketplace, versus having a product that fills voids in your product line. And maybe it's not going to really drive that much revenue, but it still is important to have the product to feel like you have a complete line. And it feels like that product kind of does the latter. Obviously, there are only so many people buying a down suit in a year.
Totally.
And I have to imagine that creating that down suit is not the cheapest process. But, it completes their line. And with high altitude athletes, they need to have the apparel to, suit those athletes' needs.
Absolutely. And it was a big part of choosing where to go after Eddie Bauer imploded. Like, I could never go to Patagonia, even if I wanted to, because they just don't build that end of the line and don't want to.
Yep.
They don't even build big enough down jackets in many ways and down pants and stuff, even if you didn't do an 8,000 meter suit. Arc'teryx kind of is in a similar place in the industry, like great company, super athlete team, but just haven't expressed interest in being strong in that area. And to me, it's just such a fundamental part of the mountains. And it's such a pinnacle place that people aspire to. Obviously, I'm biased. But yes, it was essential for me to find a company that maybe they weren't great in that space yet, but they were all in from day one that it's time to be there.
Well, maybe in the spring, we'll have you do a little demo with your new down suit, the 2-piece down suit. It's funny you bring that up. I feel like I've seen just as many photos of people wearing the full down suit as I have wearing I've seen the photos of a down suit like tied around their waist because it's too damn hot.
Exactly. You need the pants on because it's impossible to put them on when the shit hits the fan. So it has to be on. But so much about climbing now in these higher pace scenarios on beautiful days, because we have way better weather forecasting than we used to. Like, it just makes it's completely impossible to climb in it fully on. So that's the piece we needed to solve.
So you're headed to Sacramento this afternoon for a bouldering pro-am competition.
I'm going to crush it. I've climbed 5 days straight, which also is not something I do in my life anymore, because I've realized by the end of it, I'm climbing like 5'7", and now we're going to a
So are you a pro or are you an amateur?
Damn, Sam. Come on. I'm a pro.
Well, to be fair,
hopefully the teams will be 6 or 7 people. Obviously, what your point is no one's paying me money to go rock climbing, and certainly not to go gym climbing.
I could see you being a pro in like a trad or a sport climbing competition. Totally. But bouldering is a different sport altogether.
And especially indoor, it's all parkour and jumpy and all this stuff, and I do not jump. So yeah, like the cool thing is the teams are going to be like 6 people. 2 BD athletes, so I assume I'll be paired, like the alpinists and runners will be paired with one of the really good boulderers, those 4 climbers, and then 4 general public. And it's absolutely for fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And for people in Northern California, Carlo Traversi, his gym, the Boulder Fields, is just such a rad spot. It's huge. And I think it's a great community gathering place in Sac. So it'll be fun to see that world.
Well, all jokes aside, I think bouldering in a gym is really a cool sport in that like literally anyone can try. And most gyms have a V0 or a VB or whatever they call it that is pretty much climbing a ladder. And obviously you're bouldering at a harder level than that. But everything from that up to like the highest level competition boulder problems.
That's right.
And so, to have a team pro-am in a bouldering competition is much more practical than sport climbing or anything outside, obviously, and super fun way to, heckle each other, and everyone gets to stand there and watch and no one's far away. And sounds like a good time.
And it's always been one of the coolest things about climbing for me is even at crags, this is often true. The highest level is climbing right next to the first timer. And I think it's created a really cool attitude amongst climbing. I mean, I was going to pick on like surfing. Maybe that doesn't happen, or like, it's almost impossible for me to imagine in the climbing community for someone to be like, bro, what the fuck are you doing here? You don't belong here. Like that just isn't part of our world, even when places are busy. And I think it comes from how climbers of all different levels can interact and be climbing right next to each other because of how rock is formed. And that's been mimicked in gyms. The V0 will be right next to the V12. And I love that about our community.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's just like the mountain run at Palisades, right? You know, the beginners are heading down the mountain run as the experts are coming off KT, and they're all super
Yes.
friendly.
are, you, are you joking? They're all super
You
friendly.
know.
They're just suffering too much. How
Awesome.
about what are you doing in this week? And talk about this week. Like I kind of mentioned it's an unusual week, but
Yeah,
how are
I
you
mean,
staying warm?
it's been chilly. I was lucky. I got to go out on a nice mountain bike ride kind of
Hmm.
between weather events and just kind of get out, get some exercise. But it's a funky week in Tahoe. Normally October can be really spectacular, and it's only the 2nd of October today. So it could totally turn around and we could have what I like to call our 4th summer. But right now I feel
Yes.
like we're in our 3rd fall, the beginning of our 3rd fall, and it feels like it's really transitioned. So I'm pretty lucky. My wife is working in Hawaii starting next week. And because we have 2 young kids, I have to go with her to support and do some
Have to.
babysitting, and wrangled my parents to go as well. So I'm off to Hawaii, which will be a nice change of scenery for me, and just be hanging out on the beach with 2
Damn.
little kids.
I need Emily to get some movie showings in Hawaii or the
Yeah, exactly.
Caribbean or something like that. Sounds so good right about now.
Yep. I'm not mad about it. That's for sure.
Awesome. And, we don't have to dive into it, but do you start thinking about ski season training when it gets cold like this?
Oh yeah. Admittedly, I'm behind on my training. You know, it's funny. Like normally, I mountain bike in the summer and I start to trail run
Yeah.
this time of year because it just is the best way to get in shape. I'm definitely behind on getting that started, but I've started to think about winter and like, you know, everything from like reaching out to clients to kind of plan some trips and book dates to working on my, teaching calendar, and also just thinking about gear and getting my gear ready. Is there anything I need? Trying to be dialed. Cause, it's funny. Like, I think that to me, ski season starts at Thanksgiving, but I was
Mm.
reminiscing the other day. My wife and I backcountry skied on Halloween a handful of years ago here in Tahoe.
Yep.
And so
It
it's not
happens.
impossible that we could just get a couple storms and be skiing, as soon as 4 weeks from now, or potentially even sooner. So, not that that's like the start of season necessarily. It's more the teaser, but it's important to kind of get ready and start thinking about that stuff. So, yeah, training
Heck yeah.
is on the docket. Maybe
I'm,
I'll do
I'm
some
right there with
runs.
you. It's on the docket.
Yeah.
I'm running
Yep.
some and that's
That's all
been
right.
good, but I need to step up from there for sure.
Yeah. Yep. But it happens. And fortunately, December is never like the season for big objectives anyway. And so all I feel like you need to do is establish your base and then build on that come December when there's a little bit of snow on the ground here locally.
Whoop whoop. It's gonna come fast.
Oh, yeah. It's the season. Well, we're going to
Ugh.
take a little break here, and then we're going to dive into our news, and that's going to be the bulk of this episode. And then we've got a little bit of a news update about the podcast following that. So stay tuned for more from episode 39.
Today's podcast is brought to you by Alpenglow Expeditions, a Tahoe-based guide company with an international reputation. In its 20th year of operations, Alpenglow leads the highest quality expeditions in some of the world's greatest mountain ranges, from California's High Sierra to the rugged Himalaya. Alpenglow runs more than 40 international expeditions per year, as well as offering a full menu of guided ski and climbing courses throughout California. Join us and experience the Alpenglow difference.
All right, welcome back. This is episode 39, and we're going to dive into some news. We had a long little start to our podcast, and we don't have a guest today, so we got plenty of time to talk about what's been going on. So, Adrian, there was some breaking news out of the Himalaya this week. Pretty incredible. Is that your news story, I'm guessing?
Yeah, of course it's my news story. How could it not be? I mean, this is one we've talked about, we've dreamt about. I've kind of like been in touch with the team that's there. And over the past few years, as Andrzej Bargeil has been skiing the 8,000 meter peaks without supplemental oxygen. So as many people know now, he's a Polish skier sponsored by Red Bull, 37 years old, kind of like it seemed to me when he skied K2 in, I believe, 2018, which meant he was in his late 20s. It seemed to me he came out of nowhere. He was just this young kid. And I was like, holy shit, what just like he just changed the game. And we could talk about why. The reality is he had actually been building an amazing repertoire of skiing peaks a little closer to home, but both Alp stuff and especially like the snow leopards, the tallest peaks in kind of the countries of Kyrgyzstan and that area, and doing really incredible descents. And then he moved into the 8,000 meter peaks. But the kind of generational change he showed, like while many of the lower 8,000 meter peaks have been skied without oxygen, peaks like the Gasherbums and Cho-Oyu and things like that, the top five had never been skied without supplemental oxygen. So Everest K2, or never a complete ski descent, Everest K2, Lhotse, Kanchenjunga, Makalu, not in that order. And he just went and picked off arguably the hardest one or the most exposed one, put 4 different routes together in a really unique way, ski in marginal conditions without oxygen. K2, second tallest mountain in the world. He was then on everyone's radar and went on to ski all of Pakistan's 8,000 meter peaks. So he's the only person who has skied all of Pakistan's 8,000 meter peaks, which is really rad. And now he's tried Everest 3 times over the past decade. The first 2 times were unsuccessful. This fall, he came back. We were all excited to watch him. He's been telling his story in real time. And he, from what we can tell from the details that have come out somewhat far, put it together in just incredible style. Was the first foreigner to climb the mountain in the autumn season. It's a hard season, a lot of snow. It was a pretty active monsoon, so there was suddenly risk around that with fresh snow. So there was a lot of snow. He was one of 2 teams on the mountain, as far as I know. Of course, he had a lot of Sherpa support and film crew, but they successfully kind of like pushed through what sound like challenging conditions. From what I've heard, maybe his Camp 4 to summit up only was 16 hours, which is pretty long, even without oxygen. It's not uncommon, but it's a long push. Got to the top, and then the little clips that I've seen so far and the details I have are just shocking. Big exposure, decent snow in lots of places because he did ski post-monsoon and there was no wind and there was fresh snow. And I don't have all the details yet. I am guessing ropes were used in some place on his descent, but I think he might well have kept his skis on the entire time, top to bottom. And maybe one of the so the most mind-blowing is skiing without supplemental oxygen, the tallest mountain in the world. Completely mind-blowing. But then skiing in pretty good style, that doesn't mean like GS turns. Like the turns do not look good. But I can only say from being up there without oxygen, like just making a turn and not fucking it up is so impressive. I know that's hard to conceptualize when you're such a good skier and you turn without thinking. It is so hard to conceptualize, even keeping it together while side sliding, which you see a lot of in his footage. But then maybe like that little cherry on the top, he got all the way down to Camp 2. And of course, the ice fall. Everyone knows the Khumbu ice fall, completely fucked up section of moving glacier, huge blocks, usually takes dozens of ladders to get through, fixed ropes. It's all done by a specialized team of Sherpa to put the route in. That route was put in, of course, in the autumn after the monsoon. There's a lot more snow, fewer ladders. But Andrzej and his brother, who's like this incredible drone pilot, found a different line far away from the ladders and the rope. It looks like it was all the way on skier's left side on the Nukse, but he skied the entire ice fall without any ropes or ladders, and I think without any down climbing, being like route found using drone and being directed on radio. And both the risk of choosing to do that at the end of a project so huge and so successful already, and just great, of course, skiing and ski mountaineering skills to manage, vertical drops, seracs, blocks, huge crevasses, to make the right decisions all alone out there, even with a drone helping you. You look for these like hyperbole words. It's like, it's just chapeau is what everyone's saying, kind of the French, like hats off, like fucking A, what a day he had.
Yeah, It's incredible.
Go.
Well, I think there's a couple things that stuck out to me. One, and certainly this was just a short clip, but one of the clips that I saw posted by him and Red Bull, him summiting the mountain, it did not look like he was at the top of Mount Everest based on his pace. And certainly it was a short clip, but he was linking many steps together at like a decent clip, having no issue. And so I was just like, man, this dude is a beast. Like I've seen a number of clips of people summiting Everest without oxygen, and certainly people with oxygen. And it's like step, breathe, 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 step, breathe, 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 breathe. And you can probably lend a clearer picture to that. But like he did not seem to have the same struggle that many, many, many people have at that altitude.
Yep. And of course, hard to say, just Instagram is not reality, right? Like maybe
for sure
15 minutes before and the 15 minutes after there was a recovery. I'm not saying there was, but I agree with you. There was like a pretty impressive pace through a section. But but that's no shade on saying like,
no. And
clearly to have the energy to put on skis and fucking ski downhill after summiting is just
and it looked like
pretty
next
level.
Damn good turns. Obviously we saw again short clips, but like I saw, and certainly there was some variable conditions, some breakable crusts, some ice, etc. But I also saw like boot top, soft pow looking snow, which I was like, damn, that's pretty impressive. I think,
and we could do a whole podcast about this, but we've talked about it. Like autumn, no doubt, better snow and less wind, no doubt, but far less likelihood of actually being able to do your objective because the windows are so much smaller and the avalanche hazard is so much higher. Spring, infinitely worse snow, way more fall potential, but generally ultra low avalanche risk and guaranteed windows where there are low wind and blue skies. And so the best way, going back to Andrzej, like, this is third try. So imagine he had 2 multi-million-dollar expeditions that got nowhere on Everest.
Absolutely.
And that's the reality of trying in the autumn.
Yep. But he was successful. And now we've got an individual who's summited and skied without oxygen, the 2 highest peaks in the world. So if you're Andrzej and you just have this unique ability to perform at that level, what's next for him?
I mean, good question. I mean, either he's going to have kids and join the speaking tour and make a really good film. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, of course, I think the potential is high that he's going to finish all 14 without oxygen with ski descents of all 14. He's got to be more than halfway there now, like 8, 9, including absolutely the hardest ones.
Yeah.
So hard for me I haven't asked him. I don't have any insider information, but like, damn, wouldn't that be fucking cool? And it would give him another, few years of like incredible expeditions, which if that's the phase of your life you're in, having a goal, it's like Cody with the 50. It's like, it's so nice to have a plan.
Yeah.
So I could see that, or I could obviously see like him desiring to do harder lines. He's done, mostly the normal lines on the mountains he skied. And so, of course, we all know there's lines out there that are not the normal lines.
Yep, absolutely. Well, it's exciting. I think it's, we've talked on this podcast about how there's been this shift in 8,000 meter skiing and how the surface has just been scratched. And you've been a part of that, scratching the surface. But man, is there so much to be done in terms of more descents without oxygen, more lines, new routes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I mean, we should even say broader than like just 8,000 meter skiing, but skiing in the Himalaya is just, the surface has barely been scratched. And I think it's just cool to see people pushing the limit and making it happen and getting after it in their own style. And yeah,
it is really cool. And it is happening. Like I know of ski expeditions on multiple cool lines in the Himalaya right now. Other 8,000 meter peaks were being skied. The other Polish kid, Bartek, is just continuing to be on a rampage. There's things happening in South America that are really potential high-end ski objectives on big peaks. Like we've talked about this so much, like big mountain, high altitude, big mountain skiing is having a moment. And I'm here for it, obviously. And then you imagine it can keep continuing. Like we keep talking about, like, the type of skiing and how these peaks are being approached. And like, just imagine when we talked a lot about Sam Entamat, and like if that World Cup skiing or Christina Lusti, like if that World Cup skiing style comes to these bigger mountains and those things can be successfully put together, like, so.
Does it get your wheels turning?
I mean, of course it gets my wheels turning, and it makes me feel really okay and proud that there is another level coming that is clearly beyond what I've accomplished and what I will accomplish. And I'm inspired by it and I'm here for it. And it makes me, I really want to try an 8,000 meter peak skiing without oxygen, because that line has been so clearly demarcated now. So it inspires me. And it also, like, I am okay that, like, I don't need to be in competition with these guys. And I'm really, happy and proud of where I'm at. So yeah, it feels good. I want to celebrate these guys. I want to see the films come out. I mean, that's the other cool thing, that this is happening at a time when drone technology is finally caught up. So this stuff can be affordably and radically captured, so we can actually see and share in it. It's so exciting.
I got to say, and not to take anything away from the accomplishment, but I was a little bit sad that he didn't stick around and grab Lhotse as well.
How cool would that have been?
that would have just opened doors.
Yep, absolutely. And there would have been a window for it. It's been an interesting season. I mean, that window that he tried in, that 23rd, 24th, and a lot of the Manaslu summits happened in the same window. Like, it wasn't perfect. It was definitely, as I see it, a roll of the dice in some ways, in terms of monsoon was still around, but he nailed it, obviously, because there was no wind yet. And I think that really helped snow quality and ability to be up high and not be too cold. But you're right; it would have left him time for another window, another mountain. But I can only imagine I wouldn't have been going back up.
Oh no, no! I think if you're doing that, you probably are trying to do it the other way around: Lhotse first, then Everest. Maybe, I don't know. Actually,
maybe.
But well, that kind of leads us in. Obviously, I wanted to talk about Andrzej's my story too, but I let you have it. But I do kind of want to just like wrap up the Himalayan season, the autumn season in the Himalaya. Obviously, there's still a lot of climbing to be done, lower mountains. I know there's teams on Janu, and Amanda Blom's season hasn't even started, and things like that. And so there's a lot of climbing still to be done.
And I would say 8,000 meter peak season is not done.
Correct. But it is wrapping up. Right.
Wrapping up this, I think the major commercial teams are gone on the Choyus and the Manaslus. Everest Southside, as far as I know, is done. There are some, I think there's a Russian team trying something hard on an 8,000 meter peak. So there are some of those types of projects that, maybe we're not hearing a lot about, but are trying pretty audacious things that maybe the right window hasn't come for yet.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about what you know of the autumn season in the Himalaya. Obviously, you have been in touch with guides and athletes that have been over there, and I'm sure you hear a lot of stories. The media probably reaches out to you for comment, and you're like, I'm in California.
Exactly.
But tell us what you know about the season as a whole.
Yeah. I mean, overall, first I'd say, we're only at October 2nd. I had to look at my watch because I've been in Black Diamond like a whole. I basically haven't turned on my phone in 4 days. So anything that's happened in the last 4 days, you're going to have to let me know, Sam. But, overall, it's been interesting because traditionally the summit window on 8,000 meter peaks in the autumn was kind of October 1st to 15th. And we haven't even entered that, or I guess we've just entered it. Over the past decade or so, we've started to see more September windows, kind of September 16th or 18th until the end of the month. This season is interesting because there's been a quite active monsoon, quite a bit of snow and cloud, zero wind, but these climbable small windows. And as it's turned out, not only the Everest Southside, ski happened, but most of the commercial teams went for those small windows this season. I'm not there, so I can't completely identify how they were or why. I do know I'm still very deep in the forecast right now because of, we have friends and Alpenglow teams over in the Himalaya, and like the windows weren't as long as you'd probably like them. Most commercial teams would probably want like 4 to 5 day windows for a good summit and for something to go wrong. There have been 2 kind of 3-ish day windows, but remarkable success on both Cho-Yu and Manaslu. And I think that speaks a lot to like the amount of infrastructure and power that are being thrown at mountains by commercial teams now. We've talked some about that, especially Nepali teams. They're able to reduce the costs a lot and therefore bring a lot more people to their mountains, support people, and are showing they're able to go in these small windows. I haven't heard about a lot of accidents, fatalities. Frostbite is harder to hear about, but I think it's been really warm. I heard maybe 600 climbers summited on Manaslu. Now, 2/3 of those might be support staff.
Still, that's a big number, right? I mean, I was just looking at, that's exactly what I drew my attention away.
Massive number on a really dangerous mountain.
Yeah.
In my opinion, a mountain that I don't guide anymore because of its huge avalanches that don't take out one person or one team, but take out many people. But big success there. Cho-Yu, because of challenges to get into Tibet this autumn, definitely much smaller numbers, but success. So I think it's been an impressive autumn season. The biggest thing I hope from that, especially Andrzej on Everest, and I think we're going to talk a little bit more about Southside Autumn Everest and Tyler, but like every 5 or so years, hopefully something like this happens, like Lhotse Ski did a few years ago with Hillary and Jim, and that excites more people to try the Khumbu side of Mount Everest and Lhotse in the autumn. Because anyone who says the mountain's too crowded, just go in the autumn. It's not crowded.
So the autumn season on Everest had 2 teams.
Yep.
Maybe 24 total people on the mountain.
Yep.
I don't know the exact figures. I know Andrzej had a pretty large team with, I believe, 12 Sherpa, and I know Tyler had a handful of Sherpa working with his team. But yeah, maybe 24 climbers, people on the mountain total. And that's pretty incredible. And, I think one of the challenges that we've talked about in the past is just the cost for an autumn season on Everest requires multiple people. But I see no reason that you couldn't have had a commercial team on the south side of Everest this year bearing some of those costs with these 2 special project teams. Is that fair to say?
Of course. Yep. And it will happen. It will happen. It just takes a little bit of a shift amongst the climbers going to value more the experience and the remoteness and the hard work feeling all these things over pure success numbers. There will be autumns when no one summits, and there will not be springs when no one summits, or it hasn't happened except for natural disasters that I've seen. And so like that takes a shift in mindset for paying non-professional climber clients. But those people are absolutely out there that want a bit more adventure. And I think we as companies need to do a little better job telling that story. For me, my focus has been telling that story on the north side. It's more expensive, a little harder. You need to have a strong stomach waiting for the permits every spring. But if you're willing to do those things, pay a little more money and have a strong stomach to do with permits, you're going to have a far cooler experience. And I think the same is true in the autumn, but in a different way.
So you've been pretty steadfast that you will only guide Everest on the north side in the spring. Would you consider an autumn Everest expedition on the south side for Alpenglow Expeditions?
If it stayed quiet and if we could figure out the ice fall. So my last year's guiding on the south side, we were really close to having permission to fly not only clients, but also Sherpa over the ice fall and start our expedition from Camp 1. That's a whole nother can of worms, and we can have a podcast about it sometime. That is the way I would go back, unless we could realistically prove that the ice fall is massively more stable in the autumn. And I haven't seen that data.
All right. Well, you've heard it
remember,
here.
my reason not to go is both the shit show and the ice fall.
Ice fall. If you're keen to try climbing Everest from the south side in the autumn, at least have a conversation with Adrian Ballinger.
Absolutely right. DM me, call me.
Well, we've touched on a lot of peripheral things, but Tyler Andrews was the other project on the mountain, the south side of Everest this autumn. Interestingly, he did apparently have a crevasse fall in the ice fall, a bridge that broke as he was climbing through the ice fall. We can dive into that in a second.
Clipped into a rope.
Clipped into a rope. totally fine, but a near miss nonetheless. Tyler went for his fourth and fifth attempts at the FKT on Mount Everest, the fastest known time. He was unsuccessful again. I think it's cool to see the perseverance that Tyler has put forward towards this project. He is clearly committed to making an attempt. I'm interested to hear what he's learned. I thought, initially when he said that he was going to go in the autumn, I just thought, why? The autumn is known to be, and I'll just preface this as I've never been to the south side or the north side of Mount Everest, nor have I climbed at 8,000 meters. But the autumn is known to be...
We got an armchair mountaineer here.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. But the autumn is known to be a snowier environment, a more challenging environment in terms of recent snow on the mountain. And generally, when you're setting a fastest known time, you're trying to have optimal surface conditions so that you can move quickly in the mountains. And so, armchair mountaineer right here, totally just like, it didn't add up to me, right? Like autumn and fastest known time, autumn and ski, totally the perfect combination. Autumn and fastest known time, it didn't line up to me. Nonetheless, he went for it and he made 2 attempts. So certainly he thought conditions were good enough to make an attempt out of base camp twice on the mountain and during these kind of rather small windows, as you've mentioned, and was unsuccessful, although he did make it to 8,000 meters, which is an awesome kind of accomplishment for him. So seeing progress in his attempts there. He had a crevasse fall that he noted, as well as noting some, difficult avalanche conditions on the Lhotse face. And it sounds like the conditions weren't quite right for him this season.
Yeah, I think that's all right. And I think, it's interesting that we're talking about Tyler, and you guys know, everyone who listens to this know I love talking about failure as well as success. And so that's part of this. I think, plenty of other people failed in the Himalaya this season, pro athletes and, clients and Sherpa and guides, and we won't talk about them. But I think, Tyler chooses, and I respect this. He's putting out his every attempt, everything he does in real time from the mountain. That's part of his thing, which I think is a really good thing. He also just has really strong PR pull for whatever reason. And so everything's being really elevated. And so therefore it puts it right in front of us. So we talk a lot about it, even when things don't happen, or, many other things that don't happen this season. We'll probably just be like, didn't happen, move on. But in this case, there's a lot to talk about because it's so front and center for so many people. I'm being asked just as much by all my contacts and media people and friends, like, what's up with Tyler, as I am what's up with Andrzej. And so here we are.
Well, I think Everest inevitably pulls attention. Everest is the big one. And so to all the professional attempts on other 8,000 meter peaks,
true,
they're not getting as much attention because they're not Everest. And I think
they're not Everest.
That's part of it, right?
Yep. And so, from what I see, if I had to guess your questions about like autumn, how could that work? I bet 2 things happened. One, Tyler really saw how crowded the South Side was in the spring and probably didn't enjoy it very much. And it probably affected him in some ways, his, speed or attempts, things like that. And then number 2, like what I know of Tyler, like it's pretty hard for him to wait. And so probably at the end of spring, the idea of waiting until next spring broke his heart. And so there was an option to go. And if he can find the sponsorship dollars and the support, and hopefully it's super honest with everyone that like, it's going to be really hard to put this together, but it's going to be super rad to try. I love that stuff. Like, could it have worked out with the perfect boot pack set by all of Andrzej's team, and he just follows in just a perfect staircase of steps? It absolutely could have worked out. Is it less likely than the spring when there's way less precip and 1,000 people putting in the boot pack? Of course it is. So I think he probably knew, he suddenly didn't ask me, but if he did, I would have said like an autumn attempt, way less likely to succeed. But for all the reasons we just talked about 10 minutes ago, pretty cool.
Absolutely.
And then what actually happened, like I wasn't there. It's hard for me to see. It seemed like the 2 attempts were really close together. I've seen Kilian Jornet prove that he can recover fast enough from one attempt to go straight into another attempt in a pretty strong way, enough to get to the top. That's what Kilian did. Certainly didn't break an FKT doing it though. So, my Monday morning quarterbacking, I was like, maybe needed more rest, maybe needed a better window. all those things are really easy to say sitting at home in my California sunshine. I don't know all the other pressures going, like other teams leaving the mountain where the icefall doctor is going to leave and not stay anymore. All these other, the forecasts this season, I can tell you, have been really hard looking far out. So it's pretty hard. I know how emotionally hard it is to be like, I'm not going to take this 2-day window. I'm going to wait maybe 3 weeks, 2 weeks for a better window that might come that shows in the long-term forecasts that are basically like some guy dreaming up something in his basement, in terms of accuracy. Like, I mean, so yeah, this is not to throw shade on Tyler or to say I would have done anything any different because I wasn't there. But I think this project's going to take a lot of patience. Tyler clearly has all the fire, all the passion, and all the resilience. Keep trying. And so, yeah, I hope he gets to try again. And it keeps, I mean, there's no doubt he's just learning so much with every one of these attempts. And we just talked about Andrzej. It was 3 tries on Everest. We've talked about my ski descent on Makalu. It was 3 expeditions. That's not to say 3 is the magic number. It's just to say, like, every one of those, what was I doing? Getting the shit kicked out of me, having a lot of people talk shit about how clearly I wasn't the guy to do this, and I was wasting my sponsors' money and all of my time. But I think I was learning. I think I was being humble. I think I was utilizing what was happening in all of those attempts to finally get it right. Or maybe just I finally got lucky with the conditions, right? And that's a real thing. So onwards.
Yeah, well, I think you acknowledge that there are so many factors that are at play there, and it's not just an individual's fitness or preparation or the weather. There's other things that are at play, and it's hard to know. But always awesome to just see people pushing the levels in the Himalaya. I think that's the cool thing about this all is, the limit is being moved constantly. And it's tough when you can only move it twice a year in the spring and in the fall, and it can't be moved all the time. And that said, it's still being moved consistently, which is rad.
Yeah. And the cool thing is, like, hopefully, examples like Tyler, Killian being strong in the PR and social media world, like, hopefully this is exactly what causes there to be 5 people there next spring trying to break the FKT and 10 people the year after that. Because FKTs don't mean shit if lots of people aren't trying to break them and it's truly competitive. And so, yeah, like, I hope like all of this, just the same as in skiing, is leading to this like realization that this is really cool and special. And why aren't there dozens of people trying to play at the highest level without oxygen on the world's tallest mountains?
Yeah, it's funny. I'm only really impressed by FKTs when they're broken by like minutes, not even tens of minutes. Because if they're broken by an hour or 2 hours or whatever, and certainly there's FKTs that are like many, many days, and that's impressive. But generally, if we're talking about an FKT that's less than, 24 hours, like if it's broken by an hour, it just shows it wasn't a competitive time to begin with, right?
Yeah.
So, yep. Lots to come in the world of FKTs and pushing the limit in the Himalaya.
Absolutely. And, I just want to say, like, kudos to Tyler as well. I know he's a listener and, we've had him on before. I'm sure we'll have him on again. And anyone who goes to Mount Everest in the autumn and tries to do something, like, you have my full respect. And I look forward to seeing a lot more.
Right on. Well, we wanted to give a little update on the pod. We, if you didn't listen, a couple episodes ago, I believe it was episode 37, we did kind of a dissect of K2 and heard about your experience climbing K2 and a bit about the mountain itself and what you know, and just learned about it in kind of a more deep dive manner. And we've gotten a lot of great feedback. And so for our listeners that enjoyed that, we're going to be coming out starting in November with a 7-part series, kind of dissecting the 7 summits. And, we've talked a ton about Everest, and we'll do a special episode on Everest again for those that haven't listened to our previous 12 episodes talking about Everest or whatever. But we'll talk about Everest. We'll talk about Aconcagua, Denali, etc. And we're going to just kind of one by one deep dive the 7 summits. We don't have a particular order. We don't have a particular style. We're just going to get your experience, get your insight, and kind of learn about the 7 summits and what it takes to climb them. And so if you're keen to ever climb one or all of the 7 summits, or you're just curious about these mountains in general, hopefully this will be a nice series for you to kind of learn a bit more.
Yeah. Or if you just love talking shit about the 7 summits, this is for you as well. Maybe here's,
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll get into some like controversy and reasons, the goods and the bads, but certainly they are many, many people's first step, or at least reason for getting into mountaineering. So one form of climbing that we love so much, and kind of one reason for going to the greater ranges. And there's a lot to love about them, as well as a lot to discuss. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this. And I still got one left to do. So we can talk about that as well.
Right on. Well, Adrian, I hope you do well in your Pro-Am bouldering competition. I'm excited to hear about your contributions to the team of 6. That wraps up episode 39. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you all soon. Thanks for listening to the Duffel Shuffle Podcast. You can follow along on Instagram, where we post our favorite clips from each episode, as well as more about the world of climbing, skiing, and mountaineering. If you haven't already, please subscribe, rate us, and leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Catch you next time, and until then, we hope you enjoy some time outside.